Yeah, okay. Now it's working totally fine. Fuck. Now it's totally working fine as I know. Like, yeah, okay. Okay, okay. So let's start with the what is the dependency injection. Dependency injection in Spring Boot. Okay. So what is dependencies? Suppose your project has order service. First is you have order service, and the second is like your order service is uses which service is payment services, because until the payment has been done, you can't proceed for the order. Okay, so normally what you will do, you will create the class. You will create what? You will create the public. You will create a public class or order service. Okay, and the payment service payment is equal to new payment service like this. Like this, you will create the object for the payment service. Problem, order service. Now here's what the problem comes. Like the order service is creating is creating like the order service. Like the order service is creating the object for the payment service. Okay, so what you will what you recognize here, the order service. The order service is creating the object for the payment service, because like this is called as the tight coupling. But in Spring Boot we don't rely on the tight coupling. We have to maintain our code as a loose couple. Okay, so what we will do here, instead of making the object here, instead of making the object here of payment service, what we will do, we will just write here the auto wire. We will simply write the annotations called auto wire, and this is called and this is called as the dependency injection. And this is called dependency injections. Means what's happening here, like the order service is dependent on the payment services. Okay, the order service is dependent on the payment services. What we do, we wire these both classes. So when the order service is created, the Spring itself will create the object of the payment services, so that user not so users so there is no any need to create the object for the user to of order service. Because we have to also maintain the products like the code structure. In order services we have to only focus on only order services, not the other class or the not other services. Now let's move down. Now let's move on. What is beans? In Spring, what is Spring? A Spring is simply an object. Like Spring is nothing, like beans is nothing but the objects. Is nothing but the objects which is managed by, Spring, which is managed by Spring. Normally, Java objects like look like what student. If there is a student ASC is equal to new student, and this is the normal object of like Java. Okay, but what's in the Spring Boot? How the Spring Boot? How? Well, let me check. Okay, so how the Spring Boot is creating the object for the class? So we will write here the class. We write the class. Okay, I mean like means the public class student. Okay, and this is goes down like here, and if we select it here and just let me put it here. Okay, and just simply write over there here and simply write here what the component. Simply write their components and means what's the meaning of this after writing the annotations component. Okay, so the Spring itself will understand, like the Spring will create the object for you like this object will create for you by the Spring, and the Spring will also store it, and also the Spring manage the life cycle of the objects. Okay, maintaining the life cycle, storage store of the objects, and creation of the Spring, which all is called as the bin, and this is all managed by the Spring. For example, real life examples, if I am tell you, imagine a hotel without the Spring, like without any Spring. Just go through the example. Every customer code, every customer cooks food themselves, but with the help of Spring, what we do, the Spring, the hotel kitchen prepares everything. Customer only requests the food. Okay, means here, like this is what, like Spring container, where is being asked to inside a Spring container. Think of it like as a huge warehouse. So let's deep down into uh, now I will show you like see this is the my camera is not working. Okay, so just look at this container. Like this is a Spring container where all the objects are being stored. Objects of like this user services, the payment services, email service, order service, product service, and so on. Like there are multiple services over there. Okay. Now whenever needed, Spring simply pick the object from here. Okay, like components, the most basic annotations. Here what's simple, like just simply write there the components, means that like what's the meaning of the components. Spring says, hey, please create the object of this class. So what when, so now Spring will automatically create the like uh, this object for you, and store it into the Spring container behind the scene. Okay, now added service, like added service is exactly as the component, but only difference is just the meaning. Service tells you, like tells the developer, this class contains the business logic. So whenever you will write the service added services, means the developer will, so the developer will automatically know that this class contains only the business logic. Okay, so now move on the added repository. This is specifically used for the database operations. Spring understand, like this class communicate with the database. They will know, they'll definitely know, and we can use multiple annotations in one class. We will see in the code in further videos. Control, what will control? Control will use MVC, like the MVC application. It will return the HTML pages from the files. Okay, REST controller. REST controller is used for creating the REST API. We will this will use for making the website deploy on the server, like the server, like API in short. Instead of HTML, it return the JSON format. If we go to this the main portal like www.htmltechniques/users, then it will return the name job. This is what it will. Now let's understand what the difference between like AutoWire or as you know is the most popular. It is basically the dependency injections. AutoWire, what will do, it will inject dependency from the two classes. Like here's as you see the order services has been auto wire the services of the payment service, means we don't have to create the object for the payment services in order services. The Spring itself will create the object for the payment services, which will be used by the order services, because until and unless the payment has been done, we can't order the order services. So that's why the dependency is here, and that's problem is resolved by the auto wire. Okay, so I have already payment services, I will inject it here. See, like the constructor injection. Like there are three types of injections. As I will show you, there are three types of injections. Just let me look at my notes. Uh, there are three types of injections. First one is constructor injection, like, which is highly recommended and highly populated. Second is setter injections, and third is a field injection. Field injections means what? The variable declare करता है और दूसरे class का object like this, like we will see in a further video, like the what's the dependency types of the injections. Firstly, we will see the constructor injections. Constructor is automatic call when the class is has been called. So here, as you see, there is public order services, which is the class of the name, and in that bracket, what we call the object of payment service. As soon as the order services class will run, the payment service object will automatically create, and it will automatically call the payments, like the payment service. Spring automatic injects is immutable easy testing. Okay, now let's talking about the bin. You cannot use the components, like example like this time that you cannot modify this class. Instead of created manually, added configurations. App configurations is used for maintaining configuration file. We have to make, and inside that we have to use the third party classes, and that will manage by the bins. Okay, configuration means क्या? This class contains the bin definitions. Okay, configuration file depends the bins, like bin forts. It's create email services bins, and it will return the bins. Why added bin, and if added component is good questions. Use component when you own the class. When we create the class by ourselves, then we will use the component here. But when we don't own the class, we will use the beans for creating the object for that particular class, or whenever custom objects creation is required. Like what's about the qualifier? What's the qualifier? Suppose two beans are exist. First one is the stripe payment and the razor payment. Now we auto add the payment service, but the Spring will confuse, like which payment service we have to use. So that's why we use qualifier. Qualifier is the default value. So that if we don't write here the stripe payment, it will automatically, like the first preference of the payment will be stripe payment. Okay, so that's why we use qualifier. And what is the primary? Instead of writing qualifier everywhere, make one default. Make one default, like the primary. Which is the primary? Stripe payment. Instead of writing the name, like instead of writing the qualifier every time, what we'll do is just besides the component, what we will do, we will do the primary. Primary is the first. The priority will be this class will be the first. Okay. So now value. Read values from the applications dot property. Application dot properties create like the services. A request mapping, we use the we will define some basic URL, and the API start from the slash user getting map. It is used for the get request. Also there are post requests. We will make the changes for post mapping. We will put mappings, means we will delete mapping, request bodies, path variable, we use the path, request parameter, response body, and there are some like these are the not that much popular like the previous ones. Okay, so we will not just deep down into these annotations. Let me check. What the fuck?